Alright, so the last thing I'm going to show all of you are smart masks inside of Substance. So we can find them by heading on over to our assets window over here. And if we look at our submenu, we have our materials on the left side, we have our smart materials, and then the third one from the left are our smart masks. Okay, so what is a smart mask? It's, as the name suggests, it's a mask that we can simply just apply, and it uses the mesh maps that we generated to help understand the surface and to therefore generate that particular kind of look or effect. By the description alone, you might be thinking that it sounds very similar to generators that we just spoke about. And while you would be correct, it's important to understand that generators and smart masks, while on the surface they seem to be doing something similar, generators are able to create an effect that tends to be very unique and different to that of a smart mask. For instance, if I click on this generator menu, I can see that we have things such as dripping, we have things such as curvature, ambient occlusion, we even have things such as a light mask that can be applied, so this can help to emulate things such as sun fade, and that's based off of the direction that the light is actually striking the model inside of Substance. Now, those are not things that a smart mask is able to do. A smart mask is generally there just to help create what I would refer to as surface detail and wear. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and let's just apply one. I'm going to look down this list. Until such time as you get familiar, you're just going to have to look at names and kind of just hover over the thumbnail and see the effect that it gives and play around until such time as you build some familiarity. What I'm looking for is one called Paint Damaged, which is over here. It's kind of towards the bottom of the list. And I'm going to click this, and I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to show you what happens if, instead of taking this mask and applying it here in the stack, if I just simply drop it onto the model. Okay. Notice how, if we look here under layers, notice how it's what it's done. By default, it's created a new simple gray material, and it's applied that smart mask to this newly created material. Okay, so that's what happens when you drag one of these masks, or even the generators, or the procedural textures, I should rather say. When you drag and you drop it directly onto the model, this is what Substance assumes you are actually wanting to do. It creates this whole new material and then applies that mask to that new material. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that because it's obviously not what I'm wanting. I'm just simply wanting to add this to my existing mask stack over here. So click and drag, and then I'm just going to drop it in here at the top. Now, the first thing you just want to notice is that a smart mask will very often be comprised of multiple layers. And currently, there's no way of really organizing this visually, so that we will always be able to tell that these two layers are are working together as part of that smart mask. Unfortunately, this is where you've just got to use your own naming to help with things. Like, for instance, you could relabel this over here. You could double click on it, and you could potentially then relabel it, but at the moment it seems as though it doesn't even like me relabeling it, so let's not even worry about that. Okay. What would be nice is that, much like Photoshop, Photoshop allows you to colorize layers just to help with visually organizing things, and Substance Painter doesn't have that at the moment, and I think that would be a very beneficial thing for it to eventually incorporate into its layer stack. But anyway, I'm just rambling on at the moment. Bottom line is that just be aware of of your organization. Okay, so with this smart mask over here, I'm going to start at the top. I can see that we have something called Sharpen. This is much like what would you find in Photoshop, and it is essentially a filter. And as in Photoshop, Sharpen, what its function is to take everything underneath it and to sharpen it up. All right, so if I just zoom in a little bit here and I disable Sharpen, notice how the details just seem to get just a little bit blurrier. Whereas if I then enable it, then it gets a little bit sharper. So that's quite nice, and that's what we refer to as a filter. Okay, but underneath this, we have something called a metal edgeway, which unfortunately is the exact same name that the generator is from the previous lesson. So this metal edgeway over here, this is really like the meat and potatoes of that particular smart mask. And we can see that, once again, we have all these options available to us. We can also see that this smart mask is using a generator as a base, okay? And then it's building on top of that generator, all right? So we'll see over here, for instance, we have things like wear level, so we can control how much wear and tear there is. We also have things like wear contrast, so we can further fine-tune that. You can also come in and you have something called a grunge amount in this case, and this grunge amount is once again going to be controlling the grunge map that this smart mask is using under the hood to create this wear and tear, as well as adjusting the scale of that map. All right, so we'll be able to make these details a lot smaller, say for instance like so. And then there's a number of other things which can be quite useful, for instance like ambient occlusion masking. So this will help us to control how much wear and tear there is around areas where we would expect there to be a lot of ambient occlusion. So for instance here where this foot meets this surface, because these two surfaces are coming into contact with each other, we would expect this area to be occluded. So if I wanted this area to have less wear and tear, I can then just simply use this ambient occlusion masking, and the higher I make it, notice how the less wear and tear now occurs in these areas that are close to points of contact. All right, and I think that's where I'm going to end it. This has just been a very simple explanation of the various very powerful options that are available to you when it comes to masking. And what's really important to understand is that the things that we looked at, from painting layers to fill layers to generators, as well as smart masks, all of these processes that we went through, these are all things that we don't only use for masking, we actually also use it for painting. It's just that the focus of today's lesson is masking, but just note that all of this stuff we can take forward into our actual paint work, and that's where things get really exciting as well. Okay, so wish you the best of luck, play around, have a bit of fun, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and most importantly, just remind yourself all the time that this is all about learning.